outreach to journalists. That gets very expensive very fast. I think most PR firms aren't going to take a client for less than probably $15K a month.
If you're wanting to do SEO, you've got to be omni-channel. You've got to have your content everywhere your clients are.
Google Search and Google News combined sends more than 24 billion visits to news websites every month.
All right, hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. My name is Paul, and I'm joined by Ken Tucker from Changescape Web, Ian Cantle from Outsource Marketing, and Jeff Steck from Telerica Marketing Systems. And together, we're your marketing guides. And today, we're going to talk about how digital PRs can boost your SEO, help brand visibility and authority. And we'll get into some other things around that. So, Ken, I'm going to start with you. What is digital PR? I think most people know what PRs are, but what's digital PR?
Yeah, so it's the process of getting media coverage for your business through a variety of articles, magazines, websites, podcasts, social media. It's a little different than I think a lot of people think about, traditional press releases where you go out and you get a local news outlet to cover, the item that's in the press release. And that's, you distribute it through the personal connections that you have with people at TV and radio stations in your community or magazines and newspapers and things like that. Digital broadcasts it across, a variety of sources in the internet. Now, PR, doing press releases 10 years ago or so was a really good SEO tactic because many of the digital publishers would give SEO credit back to the business that published the article. That changed, and they took all of the credit for SEO. So the large ones, that have, like PR, and then they may have like web in the name of their business and, some others like that. They were very self-serving. And so it gave you a nice article. It got a lot of distribution, but it didn't add any SEO value. So there was still value, but you weren't getting the SEO credit. And so there's been a proliferation, whatever it is.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah, obviously, of systems and solutions that publish content that are intended to get you published on sites that will give you links back to your website and give you SEO credit. Now, one of the things that's also changing is, and we'll talk more about this, but it's more than just links these days. But it helps get you brand mentions, get you backlinks, and it helps you to establish the EEAT, which I know Ian's going to talk about more here in just a minute. We've talked about that in the past, but basically it's authority building. It drives awareness, and it can refer traffic, and therefore it can generate sales. So Google is shifted to putting more emphasis on entities and brand mentions, and digital PR is definitely helping with that.
Ken, I think that you kind of at the beginning of your answer, we're talking about the broader PR, and really there's two PRs that kind of play together that I think it's important to distinguish. You're talking about digital PR press releases for the most part and things that go around with it. What I call true PR, if anyone ever has a one-on-one with me and they ask about what we do and the things we don't do, true PR, public relations, is a much broader category. And you were talking about, outreach to journalists and things like that. And that gets very expensive very fast. I think most PR firms aren't going to take a client for less than probably $15K a month just for the PR piece of it. Now, true public relations, because it is a very manual process, but the digital side of it around press releases and some of the things that go with it really makes it much more reachable and affordable. And then, you made a good point about the, some of the bigger companies kind of keeping the traffic for themselves, if you will. I think they'll tell you it's because they want to give you an analytics report, and therefore they have to own the links, and then they'll tell you how well it performed. But yeah, you want the links back to your site, not to their site.
Yeah, exactly. It was good for them,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, a classic public relations strategy is to get you TV airtime, but you pay a lot for that TV airtime. I mean, you pay thousands of dollars for that TV airtime. So not only are you paying for their access and experience to, and the access to the relationships that they have to get you in front of those channels, but then you still have to pay for the channel itself. Whereas digital PR has really morphed into, ideally, I mean, there's still the old classic, the digital PR where, the big publishers are still keeping the SEO credit for themselves. Don't do that. Unless you're a very big business, just don't do that. There are better alternatives for digital PR out there.
All right, good points. So, Ian, why does digital press releases matter for SEO?
They don't. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to answer like you do. I'm just kidding. I do want to put digital press releases actually do matter. That's why we're doing this podcast. But I would suggest that they're not your highest priority. So I do want to kind of give it a visibility of the prioritization, or at least as I would suggest it to people. And you guys can be controversial and contradict it. That's fine. We can have a good discussion. But I would say for most local businesses, like your SEO hierarchy, you should have Google Business Review, optimized totally. You should be focusing on reviews. You should have on-page local SEO on your website. You should have local backlinks and citations if possible. Some of those might be similar to what we're talking about today. You should have your technical SEO buttoned up. You should have content being created all the time. And then I would say digital PR is kind of the next step in the evolution of your SEO, where you should be putting your focus. And then there's other stuff you can focus on as well. But the reason why it's a great, I would almost call it like a level 2.0, right? Get the other stuff done properly, and this will help you be even more successful. If you don't focus on the other stuff first, this will help, but not nearly as much as if you get the other stuff in place first. So let's look at Google acronym, the Google acronym of EEAT, the Google EAT acronym. So give me an E, experience. Give me another E, expertise. Give me an A for authoritativeness. Give me a T for trustworthiness.
You asked for it, Ian. You asked for
it. So that's Google's EAT formula, or the meaning of it. What does it mean? The first E, experience, means, does the author have real firsthand experience on the topic? The second E is expertise. Is the content created by someone knowledgeable or qualified on that subject? The A, authoritativeness. Is the website or the author recognized as a trusted source in the industry? The T, trustworthiness. Is the content honest, accurate, and safe? Is the site secure? Is it transparent? Right? There's a whole bunch of things that go into it. But it's very important because that's kind of the filter that Google's looking at your content and who you are as an entity in order to help you show up, right? So that's why it's important. But digital PR, it helps tremendously for creating backlinks, brand mentions. It's a form of citation, or similar to a citation, and it can help tremendously in this Google EAT framework in order to help position you with thought leadership. Backlinks, we haven't really, I think we take for granted that everybody understands these, but a backlink is basically a link from an authoritative site, preferably, that's linking into your website, and it passes some of that strength, that authority, that juice, Google juice, as we used to call it, to your website, right? So it's almost like passing their score of how Google views them a little bit over to you. So it's like a vote of confidence. And then brand mentions could be anything from, in a press release, if you're mentioned in the press release, which you should be if you're paying for that press release, there's a reason for it, or your clients, you want to make sure that it's sending out the positive brand signals, that it's giving your entity, because again, Google views you as an entity, the recognition that you deserve. And again, it can increase your authority and relevance. It can help your rankings. Anything else, Ken, Jeff, Paul?
Yeah, the one at the beginning of your answer, it's like, yeah, that almost goes without saying. I mean, because if you don't do that first, nothing else is, well, I'm not saying it's not going to help at all, but it's, like you said, it's going to be very limited in its effectiveness.
Think of a Metallica song.
Yeah.
The reason why I bring it up is because so often people take podcasts, blog posts, videos, right? YouTube videos, and we're all hyping up the topic, right? No, regardless of what we're talking about, because we want to get eyeballs on it. We want people to hear what we have to say, and we're doing it to help people. But I want people to remember that this exists just like our businesses don't exist in a bubble, right? We have competitors. So too, this particular strategy exists in the context of your marketing ecosystem, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's why we do different topics every week. But and we talk about backlinks, and you explain that, and God, that could be half a podcast by itself, because there's so much bad and outdated information about backlinks and backlinking strategies, internal linking strategies. The fact that you can actually have backlinks outside your website pointing to other distribution points that eventually come back to your website. So yeah, that's a whole topic by itself. But moving on.
Ian, I was thinking about this the other day. We don't work with franchises typically. And the reason is because franchises lock down and paralyze their local franchisees way too often. You can't, they're restricted on what they might be able to post on social media. They may not even be able to update their own damn website. Just crazy stuff. There are benefits, obviously, from, being with a larger company. So don't get me wrong, it's not all bad. But what I was thinking is, digital PR actually is a way for a franchisee who is trapped to get content published out on other sites to drive value back to the properties that they have, that they're locked into. So while you can't go do the things that we normally would highly recommend every business do in a local SEO strategy, if you're a franchisee and you're in this really locked down environment, and you're paying $400 a month for local SEO services, God knows that's going to get you a tremendous amount of value. You can add on top of it doing things like a digital PR, that's broadcast, that's designed to at least get some juice back to what you have to work with. Now, like you said, I absolutely agree. If you can't build up all of those other assets, it's going to be somewhat limited in effect, but at least it gives you control to do something that's going to add value and should help your ranking, even if it's just a half of the value that it would normally have if you had full control.
Yeah, the challenge you probably run into, at least I've seen this with franchises that I've worked with, franchisees, is that even the PR, like press releases, anything is like it has to go through the mothership, right? So hopefully, that only goes so far, Ken. Asking for forgiveness rather than getting them to approve it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jeff, why are digital PR so good for building authority?
Yeah, I think, let's take a step back a little bit and again, talk about what the authority is. Authority means that you are recognized as again, the other letters of EAT, you're recognized as somebody who knows what they're talking about. You have the experience, you have the expertise, you have a trust factor. But the authority is really bundling all that up and then making it known in a broader sense. Is one way of looking at it. So if you want to be known in a broader sense, you have to be a whole lot of places at once. There used to be a company where everywhere you want to be, or something. It was one of the credit cards. Well, that's what you want to be online. You want your online presence to be everywhere that your target audience is. Makes it easier for people to find you. That's the whole goal, right? With lead generation and growing a business. And digital PR can really help with that, because you're kind of borrowing some of those other factors from the other sites that you get posted out on to get known, to get recognized, to get seen, to get that visibility. I use the flywheel analogy, or the kid on a swing. You got to keep putting energy into the system, a little more, and eventually, the kid's flipping around the bar, or the flywheel's up and running on its own. You got to put energy into the system, and digital PR is a good way to kind of broaden that out and take advantage of other sites and other online properties that already have a lot of energy in their system. So as a for instance, we talk a lot about backlinks, and there's different kinds of backlinks. I think Ian alluded to that. There's garbage and spammy backlinks. You can probably go buy 100 backlinks for $5 someplace, and they're not going to help you at all. And in fact, they might even hurt you.
And they're all from India.
Yeah, and every backlink is, and they're probably on sites too that you maybe don't want to be on. I've seen some, people have come to go, well, look at all the backlinks I got, and then I look at the sites and I go, did you know you're listed on whatever site? And their face turns like white. They're like, we're what? Yeah, you got to be really careful with buying spammy backlinks, and Google has figured that out a long time ago. They discount them, they downplay them, they can even hurt you. So you want this set of links, this other people talking about you is another way of putting it, but you want them to come from credible sources. And the theory is that, if somebody credible is talking about you, you must be credible too, right? So it's, again, some of that borrowed trust that we talk about a lot in marketing, especially in referrals. Essentially, a backlink is a referral from some other site. And digital PR, the sites that the releases go out on are generally very high volume, high trust, high awareness sites. So you're borrowing some of that authority. Google used to call it page rank, and then they've done away with that. But pretty much every SEO tool has, is it domain authority? Is it page rank, page authority, content authority? Pretty much every SEO tool is trying to score the strength of a page, the strength of your content, and also the value of the links coming in. And even though Google may not call it PageRank, they're still scoring you, right? All the search engines are scoring you. Now the AI is scoring you, and they're making a determination about, what do I want to show to people? So having those other sites that are talking about you and are giving links back to you helps a lot with that. And then when you take it beyond just getting a link for some fluff article, and you start talking about something of meat, you start talking about any relationships that you've built, any causes you're associated with, with any, community events that you sponsor or put on or, involved with. All of that helps to build that broader picture of, hey, this is a really cool business, and we want to tell more people about them. So when you get the brand mentions, you get semantic relevance, you have keyword relevance that are worked in throughout the press releases. And that then, as it gets seen and indexed by the search engines and other engines and other sites, builds essentially that big body of work, that everything we know about a business, the so-called knowledge graph, right? And the more complete, the more you can have out in the digital world in your knowledge graph, the more notice you're going to get, the more opportunities to be found. I tell businesses starting out, we may launch a brand new site for them, and they may say, okay, so when am I going to start showing up in Google results? Even if, we do an SEO program and say, well, you're a brand new site. Google may not even come around to it for, 6 weeks. It's not like they crawl every site every day. Now, the big sites, they may crawl 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. So you've got to, again, build that flywheel up. And the more places you have that are talking about you, brand mentions, or better yet, giving a link back that Google can then crawl the link, and get in that knowledge graph and get it filled out, the more chances you're going to have of being seen, being shown, showing up in search results. Really, it's the overall understanding that the digital world has of your business.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention is, you talked about page rank and authority, and what happened. Google still has page rank. They used to make it visible,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see what the page rank was for each page on your website. That's no longer possible, but Google still uses it, and it uses it as an authority factor. So
Yeah.
going back to what you were talking about with authority, it's still there, even though you can't see it, because Google is one of the most transparent companies on the planet. That was a joke.
Well, the good news, I kind of was smiling. Yeah, that's right, for the non-video. The good news is that at least they patent their work, which means you can look at patent filings and try and reverse engineer what they do. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to do that or even should do that, but there are a lot of people that play in the SEO world that is their job. They do go out and they try and figure out what Google's doing and what they're talking about and how they're talking about things. One of the companies we use even has I don't want to out them to Google, but they even have a site where you can go in and use AI to search Google's patents and see what does AI think matters to Google. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Even though Google's not publicizing it anymore, they probably got a lot of pushback. Well, why am I only a 43 instead of a 58? And then they had to explain it. And then when they changed it, it changed, and people are it's just easier. Like, we're not going to expose it anymore. But it absolutely still is involved under the hood. These algorithms and now the AI neural networks, the weights, they're making decisions. And these factors are still there.
And another reason they don't make it visible is because just what you said, that people were starting to reverse engineer it and figure out ways to scam it.
Yeah. Let me change this and see if my page rank goes up or down. Okay.
All right. So, Ken, back to you. AI overviews and generative AI are becoming more and more important, like on a daily basis. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, the AI overviews are the AI generated content that appears at the top of search results. Not every search result, but many, and especially information-based queries, like if you're asking how old is Brad Pitt. And that's causing a lot of problems because Google is presenting the answer and it's citing the source, and it gives people a little bitty link that they could click on to go to that source, but people aren't doing that. And so you're seeing massive drops for some businesses based on the nature of their business through these AI overviews, because people get the answer. They don't need to go. Google's summarizing that answer from an authoritative site. So the good news is that site's being used as the source for Google. The bad news is they're not getting any traffic, to their website, so people could go explore other things, on that site for them. So that's becoming a real challenge. And honestly, one of the best ways, and we talk about this all the time, if you're wanting to do SEO, you've got to be omni-channel. You've got to have your content everywhere your clients are, and maybe even places where your clients are not, to build authority and get brand mentions and things like that. Paul, you and I were talking about today, or maybe it was yesterday, about how important Reddit has become all of a sudden in the world of SEO. How many local roofers or plumbers or painters or dentists or chiropractors are gonna be on Reddit, and they're going to be active on Reddit? Probably less than 1%, if that. But people are using Reddit to ask questions and get answers. And as we see the world of AI and the large language models, they love questions and answers. And that's fueling an awful lot of what's changing in the world of SEO. So you need to make sure that you're out there in as many places as possible with your questions, or the questions about your products or services, solutions, whatever, as well as providing those answers. And the more that you can do that, and the more you can get mentioned from the fact that you're doing that, is helping you with your rankings. And really, brand mentions are starting to become a major factor in SEO, and they're certainly a major factor for the AI overviews. Now, the businesses we typically tend to work with, and I think Jeff, you and Ian probably, most of your clients are in this bucket as well. We focus on working with local businesses doing local SEO, meaning people are either going to come to a local brick and mortar business from, the community that they're in or they serve, or we work with service area businesses where they go out to their customer sites in a community or a region, certainly, and so there's a different algorithm for local SEO, and the intent behind searches for local SEO is different because it's much more buyer intent. When somebody types in dentist near me or roofer near me, they're looking to hire somebody, and they want to see a list of good options that are presented to them. So you've really got to think about this omnipresence in your online strategy, and that Google flat out tells us, when you look at how do you optimize your Google business profile, the three things you need to do. You need to have relevance, you need to have prominence, and you need to have proximity. So that's for the Google business profile to help you show up on the Google Maps results. But I think it's also kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit in terms of how your website is important too, because the whole idea of relevance is like, what does Google know, or the search engines or the LLMs and the AI solutions that people are now starting to turn to in search, or even social media? What do we know about this business all across the web? Do we see that there's authority from other people saying, oh yeah, this is a good business because they wrote a review, because there's an article published about them, because they mentioned them, because they're listed in a directory or an association that they're a membership of. All of these things kind of wrap together, and AI is really hungry for understanding all of that information, answer-based information, and citations and listings and mentions. Links are still there, they're still important, but all of these other things are really ramping up quickly in their level of importance. And I'm not going to say that anything is any one more important than the other. It's the cumulative effect of all of these. And the great thing is, digital PR helps you build all of this. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to get you out there in an omni-channel way.
Get out there.
Get out there.
Just do it.
But and one thing, Ken, when you were talking about brand mentions, and Google has kind of alluded to this. They kind of sort of have come right out and said that backlinks are becoming less important. And what happened is, a few years ago, when Google was using backlinks as the primary or a primary ranking factor as to how authoritative and trustworthy your website was, people just started going out and buying backlinks, and Google figured this out. As somebody mentioned earlier, Google figured this out, and so they started. And it also happened when Google started referring to everything as an entity and a brand, and they started putting less emphasis on backlinks and more emphasis on these brand mentions. And it's almost like brand mentions may be the future of backlinks. I'm not saying backlinks will never be important. They will, but the brand mentions are important. And then when you get a backlink from some place where this brand mention is, that works. And that's what this digital PR helps you do. Anyone else have anything to add, or should we move on?
No, the only thing I was going to say is probably the powerhouse is to get the brand mention and the backlink in the same PR news article.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, Ian, visibility in Google News and trust signals. I don't know. We've talked about Google News before. How does this help with SEO?
Yeah. So hands up, anybody use Google News?
On occasion.
No. So I actually looked up the latest stats, and because I was curious, because I know my wife's on an iPhone, I'm on an Android, so naturally your Android is always predisposed to Google properties.
Really?
And the
Why?
and the iPhone is predisposed to Apple properties, right? So just makes sense. But I looked it up, and Google search in general, and Google News. So Google search and Google News combined sends more than 24 billion visits, that's billion with a B, to news websites every month. So people are looking up stuff. They're looking for information on a news item, like what Brad Pitt's doing or whatever. And even though there's AI results, they're still going to the source documents still at this point. So 24 billion is a big number. And what I found interesting too was the actual Google News app has 142 million monthly active users that spend on average 11 minutes per day in the app. So that confirms that it is highly used, at least one of the major news sources for a lot of people. So I thought I wanted to share that first. And then, really, if you're showing up in Google News, so that can be in advertising, that can be ideally in non-ads, but in what we're talking about in using press releases, that it can help you, first of all, show up in some of those searches, which is super powerful. Hello, Doug. You can't see it, but my dog's here. She wanted to get in on the podcast today. Everybody say hello to Millie. But Google News can appear in several places, and this is important. It can show up, first of all, in search, right? Google loves Google. It likes to show its own properties in search. It has its own dedicated news site. It's got the news app, the Google News app, the news tab. There's actually, if you're a heavy Google user, you'll notice all the tabs, right? You can find videos, you can find images. There's actually a news tab if you want to just look at news. And then there's top stories in Google search results. So it's pretty powerful. So if you can get your brand mention and your backlink in an article that's shared through that, it gives, again, Google loves Google, so it gives you extra punch for sure. What is that? Extra punch. That's right, folks. So it's a form of discoverability, right? That goes beyond search. It helps increase your brand awareness. And it's all about showing up on those high authority media sites, media outlets, and builds credibility for your brand. But yeah, and any questions, class, on Google News? I certainly learned a lot in researching this because I use it, but I didn't know much of the stats before this.
Yeah, it really can be a powerful platform. For
next week, we'll cover Apple News.
I think one of the things worth pointing out is that there's like different levels of press releases. And if you want to be, in the true news platforms, featured or even listed or indexed, you probably need to be a little more newsworthy. You can put a press release out about just about anything these days, but if it's not, newsworthy, I wouldn't expect it to be as popular, or some of them may not even index it. There are different editorial guidelines. I think we'll get to that coming up, but just something to be aware of.
All right. So, Jeff, let's talk about the campaigns themselves. What are the steps in a digital PR campaign?
Yeah. Oh, so this is the coming up part. Yeah. Well, like anything, the first thing you got to do is have an idea, right? You want to find an angle on essentially more content, right? A press release is more content that you are going to create and push out. It's just not going to go on your site. It's going to go elsewhere. So the first thing you need to do is to have an idea. And sometimes, it's like when we do strategy with clients, if they go, yeah, I don't know, we just do everything like everyone else, you got to start doing a little digging, because no, I guarantee you don't. I can guarantee you there's something in your business that's unique, that's different. You might even need to ask your existing clients. Sometimes we'll invent something, right? If you're a business and you are having a hard time differentiating, then maybe you take a new initiative where you're getting involved with a cause, or you're getting involved with a community organization and supporting them. in anything that you change in your business, anything that you really take a special interest in. Those are all things that can be promoted. You can put a digital PR about them. You could put out digital PR about a product if you want. The one thing I would say you probably don't want to do in digital PR is be salesy. You can be informative, it's news, but I wouldn't be overly salesy. Now, if you're running a promotion, is that news? I mean, some of the lesser sites may pick it up, but I don't think the New York Times is going to care. But if you roll out a new product, if you sign a major client, if you're doing something different, if you publish an article and you want to draw attention to it, draw visibility to it, you can, put out digital PR about it. So there's lots of things that you can use digital PR for. It's not limited strictly to, we had a record-breaking quarter or we announced a new product. There's tons of things. So find the idea. Find something that is interesting, hopefully unique and compelling, and definitely it's got to be trustworthy. You can't, put out something that's patently false or that you can't, back up. You gotta be able to, back up everything you put out. So once you have that idea, then you need to get into creating. And it's just like any other content creation. You want to think about where it's going. You want to think about who's consuming it. You want to think about what they're looking for, and then think about how the technology is going to help in that process. So yeah, your digital PR should be optimized for keywords, since it is part of an overall SEO strategy in a lot of cases. Think keywords. Just don't write something up and push it out there. Say, hey, how can we modify this and adjust it to use the keywords we care about? So you'll create the content around the ideas that you have, the things you want to talk about, the things that are hopefully newsworthy, and then frame them again, around your ideal client's point of view. What does somebody who's reading this want to get out of it? Why would they want to read it? You don't want to just push stuff out that nobody cares about. To a certain extent, you can get away with that because you might get a link from it from another site. But what you really want to do is get stuff that people are going to engage with. That's going to build your trust factor with you, the know, like, and trust, and then get them to click on through the link at the bottom or a link in the keyword. Come to your business, do a brand search on your name. That's the ultimate goal, right? So use all the tools at your disposal to craft the content written for your target audience using the terms they're going to resonate with, and that will also help you be found in search. And then you can push it out if you're using the online platforms, which you probably want to do. There's Ken is very visual with the gestures today. Always, I guess. So, the online platforms can help a lot. There are free versions to not very expensive versions, to super expensive versions. But for not a lot of money, you can, eliminate a lot of the fluff, the ads that they'll pack around the free press releases. And you can get the content out and distributed to a lot of platforms. You probably want to put it on your own website and then tag it using schema markup saying this is a news article. You want to submit it as many places as you can. And then kind of the cherry on top, if you can get other people, humans, looking at it and interested in it. So other journalists, influencers, find journalists in your town that are covering your type of business or business in general. Find influencers in your particular, market niche. That's for you, Ian. And
appreciate it.
And then let them know, hey, this is out there. You might want to check it out. The ultimate goal would be that you catch their attention and then they go deeper. They want to do a deep dive on whatever you did, whatever you're saying, whatever you're talking about, or influencer wants to check it out and wants to talk about it themselves. That would be the ultimate goal. And as we mentioned earlier, there are public relations firms, since PR falls into the public relations category. There are public relations firms that you could maybe get their attention or maybe engage with. But again, upfront, ask them about their pricing, because that side, what I call true public relations, is very labor intensive. So if you have somebody doing it for you, you're going to expect to pay them for it. But there are, services and platforms where you can submit them and hopefully catch the attention of journalists and influencers. Because, let's face it, they're looking for ideas too. They're looking for things that they want to talk about. They can't always talk about the same things. So ideation, creation, and outreachation. Those are the three things you want to do. And
you made up the last one, didn't you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Then you tie them all together with all the rest of your marketing, work it as a multi-channel, omni-channel approach, and sit back and good things will happen. Well, don't sit back. You got to keep working it. Don't just do one thing and then expect to ride on that forever. But when you keep doing that over time, consistently, then good things will happen.
And something you said about not being salesy there, when it comes to press releases, there are certain requirements. They have to be written in a certain way. You can't basically take a blog and say, okay, I'm going to turn this into a press release. It doesn't work that way. So,
yeah, and different platforms have different requirements. Some will actually go through human editorial review. Some may be an AI scan review. But yeah, there are certain requirements that you've got to meet for the platforms that you're going on to. So know the platforms you're going on to, what you're trying to accomplish with it, and know the requirements.
So any other thoughts on this topic?
I've got one. So a lot of people talk about this thing, and it's not super well known, but people who talk about and work with PR, there's this thing out there called Help a Reporter Out. And, reporters can post questions and see if there are experts that are willing to come out and come on record and provide an answer to that question or provide a perspective on an issue or things like that. You can do that. That can be very effective. The great thing is you don't have to do that to be effective in digital PR. You should have, as Jeff talked about, I'm sure you probably talked about, Paul, you probably talked about it as well. Not everything is newsworthy and not everything's going to be picked up. But, we've got a list of probably 70 different ideas that we've thought up or we've researched and found where people write press releases. Every time you get a new certification for your business, every time you sell a new product line, again, it seems like I'm stuck on roofers today, but, if you're a roofer and you start carrying a new line of shingles, then that's an opportunity for you to do a press release. Every time somebody achieves a milestone, like somebody has been with your company for 25 years, that's a press release. Every time they get a promotion, there are so many different things. This is an untapped gem that most businesses and most marketing consultants do not take advantage of. And, while Ian stressed and made the point, and Paul, you reiterated it, and I think it's absolutely spot on. You got to have this foundational stuff first. This is what can take your existing SEO at that level and supercharge it, because you need the rest of the internet to provide that authority and trust back to you and your business and your website to amplify it. And, so digital PR is what, Ian?
It's a force multiplier.
You said that with such enthusiasm.
And, one thing that I just thought of here is that, and Ken had talked about this earlier at the beginning of the podcast, where you can get backlinks from press releases, but a lot of times the press release firm will keep that credit for themselves. But a lot of times you can request where that backlink goes. So you could send that link to one of your YouTube videos, and from that YouTube video link to your website to a relevant article.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of I think, depending on the platforms, if you have the option, if they offer you, tracking and insights, that's probably going to interfere with your being able to tally it yourself. So assuming you've got Google Analytics set up, take the link direct. Don't take it through them, just so that you can get insights and analytics, because you'll get them anyway. Paul, I did have one other thought relative to, when you start working the PR world. And of course, you'll know all the stuff you put out, but especially when you're looking, Ken mentioned Haro, Help a Reporter Out. And there was a period where it was maybe going away or being absorbed by somebody else. It is back, by the way. So if everyone thinks it's gone, it is back. But you want to pay attention to what people are saying about you, especially when you're out looking to get that attention, right? You want to know, how effective is it? So set up what John Jantz, Duck Type Marketing, calls a listening post for your business, for the search terms you care about. So things like Google Alerts. What's the other one? That featured. Featured is, I think, a place you can look and see what people are talking about, what's being shared. Set up mention, I think is mention one of them. There's different places you can go to set up basically scans, and you get alerted anytime your name shows up anywhere, so that you know what people are saying and what they're talking about you, because that's the goal, to get other people talking about you. Hopefully it's in a good light, and you want to know when they are, both so that you can gauge how what you're doing is working, but also if it's in a negative light, you can pay attention and take action on it. So it works both ways. When you're going to work this, you got to monitor it as well.
And just to clarify, when I said a YouTube video, I meant one of your YouTube videos, not some random YouTube video.
Well, I was going to say, everyone just send them to mine will be good, but
Or send them to the Marketing Guides videos.
There you go. Well, this is probably a good place to wrap up. Ken, Jeff, Ian, thanks for sharing your thoughts on this topic. Thanks to our audience for joining us. And we hope you found this valuable. So, Ian, you want to take us out?
Yeah, for all those listening, be sure to subscribe. Smash the subscribe button as hard as you possibly can. Make sure you follow us. This is my favorite part of the whole podcast, is the actions of smashing that button. Please share the link with great aggression with other people. And because they're going to benefit from it. And until next week, folks, keep calm and mark it on.